the top of a car park and jump off it. And I was just really scared. My mum witnessed the whole thing. An ambulance got called to the doctor's surgery. This is awful, but this is what happened. I absolutely went and lost the plot and poo and pain. It was passing out if I stood up because my face was all swollen, my neck was, sorry, I don't know why I'm even crying. Hello honeys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're just joining me now, then hi, my name is Imogen. Thank you so much for returning to my channel. I'm so grateful that you found me. Please definitely stay. Today is going to be part 2 of my storytime series. This storytime series is all about my stomach condition. This is the journey of how I became diagnosed with my stomach, how I was in hospital and how bad it got, and how I deal with it now. So if you haven't watched part 1, I will link it up here and I will also link it in the description because you're going to want to watch that so you can be up to date. And let's get in with part 2. So I moved to London and I was loving life, kind of. However, I then moved in with those girls, which was the worst toxic environment. And I also had this underlying stomach thing, which I still didn't work out what was wrong with me, and it was getting progressively worse. So I ended up going to the doctors in London and registering to a doctor's there. When I got to the doctors, they prescribed me omeprazole and Movicol. Movicol. So the omeprazole is for acid reflux, there's lansoprazole and omeprazole, and it's actually one of the most prescribed drugs in the country. It's for acidity in your stomach and it's an alkalizer, so it alkalizes the acidity in your stomach. So it hopefully prevents acid reflux. Basically, they told me that I was so blocked up that things needed to move. So I needed to take Movicol. And you normally take 2 sachets. They made me take 8 sachets a day. 8 sachets. If anyone has ever taken Movicol before, then you will know it is absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely vile. Honestly, it's like these orange sachets. I can't, but they taste like powder chalk. Some people can deal with them, but you have to take them with water and they make the water taste disgusting. And the side effects of Movicol were really affecting me because what happens is it holds a lot of water weight in your body. So I wasn't fitting into my leotards, I wasn't fitting into my tights. I was having to re-buy things to wear at university because I just wasn't well at all. I was swollen. I was like a big swollen water lump. That's how I felt. I literally couldn't dance. I couldn't really move. I felt so rubbish because my body was just expanding. Because what happens is Movicol basically holds the water, so then the water eventually pushes all the SHIT through. However, Movicol wasn't working. So I was taking 8 sachets a day and nothing was moving. I was living with these terrible girls who were just awful, and I couldn't tell them what was going on because they didn't really like me. They would wake up earlier than me to go to uni together, all walk together, and I'd be the one left behind like, hi. I couldn't open up to them and say I was in pain. I was in every class with them as well as living with them, and they were just tyrants. They pretend to everyone at uni that they were my friends. They were horrible. And I have done story times on them, which I mentioned, so I will link them up there as well. So I started to not go into university every single day because there are mirrors in every studio all around you, and I felt so unlike myself. I know I was probably being silly, and I know that a lot of you will probably be like, oh, you bloated isn't that bad, but to me, my face was all swollen, my neck was, I just wasn't myself. And having to stand in a mirror where you're having to be like this and suck your stomach in, my stomach wouldn't go in. It was full of gas and poo and pain. It was horrible. Honestly, the pain I was in every single day at dancing, singing and acting and doing my university degree was just horrendous. I felt so lonely. I could talk to my mum and I could talk to my dad on the phone, but it wasn't the same at all. I was stuck in London. The only friends I had at the time were the friends that I lived with, and they were not my friends. So it was just getting worse, and they were really judgmental that I wasn't going into university because I was a bad girl, if you know what I mean. They were like, oh god, she's like not a good person, she's not going to university. And it was like, oh no, I got tarred with this brush of being late or not coming into uni, and then that stigma's attached to you. You feel like you don't want to go into uni more. You have this anxiety, and then anxiety just made my stomach worse. So then it would just get worse and worse and worse. What's really savage is my friends I lived with only liked me because of who my ex-boyfriend was, because my ex-boyfriend would give me money to pay for things for them. Like if we had sleepovers, I'd buy them new pajamas, buy like Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and they were just rinsing me. And then all of a sudden they just dropped me. When we broke up, they were like, And I was such a people pleaser. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get us this, I'm gonna get us that. Not knowing really that I was just being used. It was wonderful. Anyway, so I started going to my singing lessons, and my singing teacher was a Wanker. He was South African. No, was he New Zealand? He was South African or from New Zealand. He was so cold and horrible. Was he Australian? Oh, this is really testing my memory. I'm gonna have to find out from someone. I don't even remember his name. Anyway, I went into a fake audition with the singing teacher, and he was like, stop right there, stop right there. And I was like, okay. He was like, what's wrong with your voice? I was like, I'm going through a lot of things at the moment. I've got a lot of acid reflux. Well, if you walked into my audition room and even spoke, I would hear in your voice you've got acid reflux, and I would tell you, get out of my audition room. And I was like, sorry, that was the worst accent in the world, but you know when you're just like, oh my God, I couldn't have felt any worse in that moment. Even if you came in here and said your name, even if you went, hi, my name's Imogen, I would be like, out, because your voice is damaged from this acid reflux. It is damaged. And then I was like, my life is over. Everything I thought I wanted to be on stage, I wanted to be an actress, I wanted to do these things, was crumbling around me, because I had teachers telling me, you're swollen, you're overweight, you're bloated, your voice is rank. Like, honestly, I was like, what is my life? And I was getting more and more depressed. So then I went into ballet, and this is the one day where shiz hit the fan. I was in my ballet lesson, and basically it's a really strange thing. I don't really sweat. I don't really sweat at all. Like, if me and Spencer do anything, he sweats, and I'm like, no, I don't really sweat. Like, I just don't sweat. It's quite weird. And I can do like a full hour ballet class and not really sweat at all. Everyone else is sweating and I'm just chilling. My ballet teacher was like very old school and very traditional. She would tell you if you had flabby skin. She was very much like that. Scary, but very talented, and did so much back in her day. Prima ballerina for the Royal Ballet, you know, whatever. She was like, Imogen, you've got all the facilities, but you're not using them. Tomorrow, to class, you are bringing a towel and you are not stopping for water. So when you come into that classroom, you have your couple of sips of water and no more water. I need to drain every single bit of water out of you because you need to give me maximum effort. So I was like, okay, miss. So I went into my ballet class the next day, knowing that water was refluxing on me anyway, kind of thing. Like, I would just get like a lot of acid. So anyway, I took my sips of water, and it was so strange. Honestly, unheard of. I'm standing in ballet with no friends. It was wonderful. I'm standing in ballet and they're all judging me anyway because my bun isn't done right and whatever. And I'm there and I'm drinking slowly and it's not going down. Like, you know, you go like that and you swallow. Nothing was moving. The water wouldn't go down. And when I'm explaining this, it sounds weird. It was the weirdest, scariest thing ever. Water was coming out of my nose and out of my mouth because it couldn't move down. And I'm panicking. I'm panicking at this point. I'm like, what is going on? Oh my God, oh my God. I'm panicking, scared, absolute rubbish. So then my ballet teacher's like, oh my God, you need to go to the doctors. You need to go to the doctors. So I went to the doctors, which was literally a 2-minute walk from my university and also a 3-minute walk from my flat. So it's perfect. So I went to the doctors and I had an emergency appointment there, and they were like, we really can't actually tell you what you have until we did further tests, but we think you've got a stomach ulcer. And I was like, hallelujah. I was absolutely buzzing. I was like, stomach ulcer, princess, I've got this. She was like, take some antibiotics for 2 weeks. So she prescribed me some antibiotics and she said 2 weeks and it will be gone. I was like, 2 weeks of antibiotics? Easy. You know when you think you're actually dying and then they tell you you're fine? You're like, stomach ulcer? Absolutely. My prayers were answered. I was like, oh my God, I haven't got IBS. I do actually have something wrong with me. Stomach ulcer, and we will be gone. Do you know what I mean? That was where I was at. I was so happy. I was so happy until I realised that her prescribing me the antibiotics absolutely ripped my insides because I did actually have a really bad condition. But there we go. The 2 weeks of the antibiotics were horrendous. 2 weeks of the antibiotics. I did not actually go into university. My stomach got progressively worse and I could not even drink water. I was still swollen because nothing's moving, but I couldn't eat. I couldn't even drink. I was passing out if I stood up because imagine not having any water or anything in you. I had nothing. My blood pressure, my blood sugar was so low. Even to suck on a sweet, I couldn't do that because obviously it was so sugary it would just come up. I couldn't do anything. Mints, couldn't suck on them. Couldn't have water. So I obviously couldn't go into university, and obviously I had wonderful housemates who were so judgmental. And they were all round one day and that's when I absolutely lost it. My stomach lost it. They were all home having lunch break, and all of a sudden I am just violently, I'm sorry if anyone doesn't like sick, so I would skip for a minute. I'm talking about sick. I was violently being sick up. However, this sick was really horrible because it was bile, it was rank, it was disgusting, it was burning me. It was like no food, it was just acid basically, but it was still a lot and a lot and a lot. And then I was passing out, and basically there was about 4 other girls in our flat that were okay. They were all right, and they actually had decent conscience, and they actually cared about me. So they came into the room, and the other girls followed as if they pretended they liked me. I don't really remember too much else, but I got picked up by an ambulance. So I went in the ambulance, and I stayed in that hospital for hours and hours on end for them to take bloods from me and to try and get my notes. They then came back to me and said they're going to give me an anti-sickness via the IV. So I was like, okay, fine, anti-sickness, stop me being sick. I didn't really know what this was at the time, but it was called metoclopramide. So normally anti-sickness just go to your stomach and they stop the sickness. However, metoclopramide is a little bit stronger, and older people really like it when they're in hospital because it goes into your brain and can sometimes make you go into a specific trance or feel more relaxed. This was the first time I should have realised I was very allergic to it. So I'm lying in this hospital bed and I have a cannula in my arm, and all of a sudden I felt this anti-sickness go up, and I'm like, ready for it, I'm ready for it. It's gone up, and it would have taken about 0.5 seconds for me to absolutely go crazy. I ripped my cannula out, blood was flying. Sorry, this is awful, but this is what happened. I absolutely went and lost the plot. They didn't realise this at the time, but when it crossed over to my brain, a lot of young people can't handle it because it's very strong and very powerful, and when it goes into your brain, certain messages can get mixed up and you can feel very, very on edge. It was making me want to run into other people's rooms. I was screaming, I was shouting, I was going, honestly, it was so horrible. The feeling right now, honestly, my whole body was shaking. It was so horrible. It was an allergic reaction to an awful drug. It wasn't like an allergic reaction where I started coming out with itchy or anything like that. No, no, no. It was the weirdest brain reaction I've ever had in my life. I can't explain it to you. I've never taken a drug, and I've never smoked cigarettes or smoked weed or anything like that, but it was like being in a trip, if that's what it's like. I mean, if that's what it's like, I don't know why anyone does it, but that was horrendous. They then calmed me down with another drug, which made me really drowsy, so I don't really remember what that was, but I went really drowsy, and then they came back in after a long time and said your bloods are okay, but your blood sugar's really low and your blood pressure's really low. They then put me on a drip to get some fluids in me, etc. And when they were doing that, they came back in and said, you've got a stomach ulcer, so I don't know why you're here. And I was like, I'm here because I'm not well and it's getting progressively worse. I've been on antibiotics for 3 or 4 days and it's getting worse. So then they were like, well, you shouldn't be here, you've got a stomach ulcer, go home. So I was like, oh my god, I got released at like 4 AM. I went in at like 1. So then I went back to my flat, went to bed, obviously couldn't go to uni the next day. I was not getting up 2 hours later after being in hospital. You'd think my flatmate would be a bit quieter, but no, they were just really loud, disrespectful, didn't really care. It was wonderful, I loved it. Not. I laugh about it now, so I just don't really care. But anyway, after going into hospital once in that space of 2 weeks, I went in a further 2 times. So in the space of 2 weeks with a stomach ulcer, I went into hospital 3 times. All 3 times via an ambulance. Ambulances had to be called by my mum. Ambulances had to be called by my dad because I would call them and then pass out. They're very worried about me. The flatmates would let them in. It was all very wonderful. I was be taken to the hospital. Did they ever come? No. Every single time I went to the hospital, what did they say to me? You've got a stomach ulcer, you need to go back to your GP. Your GP is the person that can refer you to your specialist, etc, etc, etc. And then I'm getting even more frustrated. I'm just feeling so low because I'm like, this is never ever gonna get better, is it? I just felt like I was gonna be ill for the rest of my life, which, okay, I am gonna be ill for the rest of my life with my condition, but at least I know what I've got, kind of. At least I know how to deal with it, kind of. Basically, after that, there was a really bad time. So then it got really bad, and the last time that actually I ended up going into hospital was this. My mum actually came down because I had been passing out and I couldn't drink water. So my mum was like, this is not enough, you know, and I'd hit my head from passing out. My mum was like, I need to be there for you. So my mum came down and she took me to the doctors, and she was like, if they're not going to take you seriously, I'm going to make them take you seriously. So we went to the GP, and my mum was like, look, she's 20. I don't care if you want to send her away because she's young. She's not dealing with this. Something is wrong with my daughter and you need to sort it out, because this is going to be so bad for you guys, because she's going to get really ill and something's going to happen, God forbid, and you're going to be the guys that are liable. So you need to sort her out. My mum was really angry and really upset. Obviously, as a parent would, because I was disintegrating in front of her. Like, I was deteriorating in front of my mum, and it was just horrible. The doctor actually took my blood pressure and my bloods then, and the doctor was like, we need to get you to a hospital ASAP, Rocky. An ambulance got called to the doctor's surgery. My mum got in the ambulance and we went to the hospital. We went to a different hospital this time. We went to UCLH, which is in Houston, which is an amazing hospital. We went there and they put me on a drip, and they put me actually in majors because of my condition. So I went into majors. So the guy who actually stayed with me that night in A&E was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. I wish he'd been my specialist throughout the time. However, this was when we realised I was allergic to metoclopramide, because they injected me again with an anti-sickness by my IV, and I went like that. My mum witnessed the whole thing. I'd ripped out my cannula. I had jumped off the bed. I was trying to get past all of the doctors and the nurses to go and run in the road. I wanted to play with traffic. I was like, get me out. I was, honestly, it's actually really distressing to talk about, and it's also really distressing to think back to, because, oh, promised myself I wasn't going to cry in this, but it's just so weird to think back to, because I was so unwell. I was so unwell, and that reaction was so scary. Like, if I didn't have my mum there, it would have been so much worse. My mum was like, get this out of her system, get this drug out of her system. So they had to flush the drug out of my system. I was really, really unwell, and my mum was crying, you know, she was so scared, and it was horrible. Honestly, the honest truth, I wanted to go and either get to the top of a car park and jump off it. That's how much it got into my brain, and that's actually so scary to think about again. Sorry, that is... Yes, back in the room, we are back. So that evening, my mum was going to stay with me. I was going to go home, but then the doctor actually said to me, listen, we're going to keep you in overnight. And I was like, no, I don't want to stay in. I don't want to stay in hospital. I didn't want to stay in. I was so scared. I felt so vulnerable. I was so nervous that they were going to tell me a really bad thing, and I was just really, really scared. I'd never had anything like this in my life. I'd never broken a bone. I'd never ever been like this. Yes, I was ill when I was in year 2, but I don't remember any of that. But this was like really serious and really scary, and I was just not handling it very well. And my mum was like, baby, don't worry, you're gonna be fine, like, you're only gonna stay in for one night. And sorry, I don't know why I'm even crying. I just remember how scared she was, and she really didn't want me to stay in hospital, but she wanted me to get better, and I actually ended up staying in for months. So yeah, it wasn't one night. It definitely wasn't one night. It was a lot longer than one night. So I'm going to leave it there because I'm really emotional, and I also feel like then we can talk about the hospital stay in the next part. I really hope you enjoy these story times. I really am so grateful that anyone's even watching them. For anyone that is struggling with something that's a hidden disability, or anything that you're going through, a chronic illness, or something you're struggling with to get sorted at the GP, or if you're going through something mental health wise, or if you're just watching this video just to support me and know what went on, I'm so grateful that you're watching. And just please know that you're not alone. I am in this with you. We are all in this together, and you will feel better. I promise you. Every day, sometimes things get worse and sometimes things get better, and you just have to remember each day is a new day, and you tackle it as a new day. I love you guys so much. I've got uploads every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, and I will see you next Saturday for Storytime Saturday. But hopefully you want to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. I'd be so grateful, and I will see you on Tuesday. I love you guys so much. Until next time, I'm gonna love you and I'm gonna leave you. Bye. I love you. Bye.